I, 27, was supposed to get married to my ex-fiancé Mason, 29, on the 20th of this month. But last week a mutual friend caught him cheating on his ex Kim, so I called it off. Because it's so close to our wedding date, I had already booked everything like the venue, catering and everything else. I barely managed to get any money back as it's mostly non-refundable, so in total I've lost $20,000. Last year I took out a loan to cover the costs of the wedding. The longer I take to repay it, the more interest it gets. When we first got engaged, Mason agreed to sharing our finances together, meaning had we got married I would have been able to pay it off. This was supposed to be in our prenup, but because we didn't get married, it meant he no longer had to share finances. I asked him if he was still willing to help and told him that I will go into debt if he doesn't, as I can't repay it alone. He told me it isn't my problem, you took out a loan you can't pay back, and stopped responding after that. When we got engaged, Mason proposed to me with a family heirloom ring belonging to his great-grandmother that was worth $25,000. When we canceled the wedding, he told me he wanted the ring back, but we never got around to arranging a time he could pick it up. Because I don't want to go into debt, I told him that if he didn't agree to help pay it off, I wanted a lawyer involved, that I would sell the ring. He didn't reply and ignored the messages. However, after talking to a mutual friend, Jake, I found out he had actually read the messages and told everyone he didn't care because I wouldn't do it. I asked Jake to tell Mason that if I don't get a message from him in the next 24 hours that I would sell the ring. Jake told me he again said he didn't care and didn't think I would do it. So the next day I sold the ring to an online website and messaged Mason to tell him it had been done and told him he shouldn't have underestimated me. He started cussing me out, saying I didn't scare him and that he would be around for the ring later. True to his word, he came to my house demanding the ring, and I told him I sold it already and showed him the proof. He blew up at me, saying I was a petty idiot and that I shouldn't have sold it because it wasn't just a ring, it was an heirloom that meant a lot to his family. A lot of my family members think I overreacted and shouldn't have gone to extreme measures, as it will be hard for him to get the ring back, if he even can at all. Am I the idiot for selling his great-grandmother's ring? Not the idiot, the ring was yours. The ring was a family heirloom, yes, but the debts you incurred for the wedding weren't yours alone, and the reason for it not going forward was your ex's fault. Since he refused to take responsibility for anything, you used the only leverage you could to get you out of a hole he at the very least helped, if not dug entirely himself. Why, if you could pay off the loan when finances were joined, didn't he help to pay from the start instead of letting you take out a loan? That in itself seems like a major red flag, and his lack of commitment was highlighted in the worst possible way. Not the idiot, but why are you taking out a loan for a wedding that is just stupid? Sorry. If you don't have the money for a big event, then you shouldn't get married or have a smaller and/or court wedding. Why do people think taking out a loan is a good idea? I don't understand it. Stay away from things you cannot afford. Even if you had gotten married, still there are parents and couples who have lost everything over this. Have you not heard the stories? Not the idiot. While I'm a firm believer in giving back the ring if it's a mutual split or the woman cheated, he was the one to cheat, thus the ring is a gift and thusly belongs to the woman. Now argument is valid. Pretty sure if you tried to sue him to split the costs of the cancelled wedding, he'd be held responsible for his half, as you both agreed it was a joint debt even if you were the only one on the loan. My mom and my wife have never had a great relationship. My mom has some issues and my wife has zero patience. I'm not even talking about typical controlling MIL stuff, but more like personal issues. My mom is extremely weird about certain things such as eating, touching people/things, having control over what she wears/her body. She isn't great with social norms, and to be honest, people do coddle her. My grandparents are just burnt out from raising her and don't even care at this point, and her husband is just happy as long as she is eating enough and doesn't care how bizarrely she behaves. I don't believe in coddling her, but also feel my wife is controlling sometimes. I believe in giving my mom two choices, with one being she can leave or opt out. For example, if she wouldn't wear the color my wife picked for our wedding, she could just not be in pictures. If she is being rude and refusing to eat, she can leave the room. However, I don't see the point in fighting with her. You are never going to win. We recently had a christening for our son and my mom showed up in a strapless dress, which is not allowed in my wife's family's church. My mom has never been to a church in her life and didn't think that was still a rule. To be clear, this wasn't some clubbing dress and would have been fine if her shoulders were covered at all. My wife told her she can't go in like that and offered her MIL sweater. My mom refused as it didn't match her dress and she didn't like it. She looked around for something else to wear and then offered to go home and join us for the party later. I thought that was fine, but my wife got mad and said she was being selfish and acting like an idiot and demanded she put it on. My mom said no and started whining. My wife accused her of not loving her son/grandson and it became a power struggle. People, not my mom, started yelling at my wife. It was awful. I told my wife to leave her alone and said my mom could put it on or leave, but leaving is a perfectly valid option. My wife just gave me a death stare. My mom said she would leave and thank me for being reasonable, which I see was a dig on her part. Eventually my dad gave her a suit jacket and I thought everything was fine, but my wife was furious after the fact and said I sided with my mom and let her ruin our son's christening. She said I'm a coward and should have demanded she put that sweater on, and it is ridiculous that she cared more about the sweater than her family. She said I undermined and embarrassed her in front of everyone, and my mom deserved to be yelled at. You're the idiot. You're infantilizing your mother while alienating your wife at the same time. Nice work, a twofer. This will be a theme in your likely very short marriage. So figure out which team you're on and stick with it before your wife makes that choice for you. Your mother is a grown adult who raised you. Stop making excuses for her choices and behavior. Unless your wife and child are less important to you than your mom. If that's the case, then just move back in with mommy and your wife deserves a man, not a mama's boy. Everyone's the idiot here. To be fair, you are the only thing even remotely approaching a reasonable adult in this situation, but while you're right that yes, mom's being ridiculous, but good luck convincing her of that is the only realistic approach to be taken here. Valid was maybe not the best choice of words to express. If you're really prepared to miss kiddo's christening over this, so be it, but don't expect us to be happy about that. As for everything and everyone else, did it occur to you at any point in the lead up to deciding to spend the rest of your life with your wife that she and mom might have a few troubling tendencies in common? And if so, why did you ignore that? Not the idiot. You've come up with a system for handling your mother. Yes, it's a silly system and there are some things in life your mom should be just okay with, but if she hasn't gotten it by now, I doubt she ever will. Your wife's insistence is what pushed everything over the edge. She could have let things lie instead of trying to take the reins. If you were happy for your mom to leave, she should have just been okay with it. She caused a scene which ultimately caused the issue. 35. My sister Daniela, 33, has Rett syndrome and will never be able to live independently. Growing up, my parents forced my older brother Henry, 42, to essentially be a third parent and caretaker for Daniela. Then they expected that of me after Henry moved out when I was 10. I was forced to quit all my extracurriculars. I was never allowed to go anywhere or do anything outside of school hours because they would need someone to complete chores while they were at the hospital with Daniela or look after Daniela while they went out to have fun. It was very common for them to say things like, you get to see your friends every day at school. We only get to see ours 2 nights a week. They would be out until midnight most times and I would be on my own taking care of Daniela. I moved out the day I graduated high school. I only talk to my parents for family emergencies, because any other conversation becomes about me again becoming a full-time, unpaid caregiver for Daniela. Recently my father experienced a health scare. He is fine, but it made my parents realize that they are getting older and will not be able to take care of Daniela someday. They finally got Daniela on a waiting list for a care home, but it's obviously a very long wait and it's very likely that my parents will either pass away or become unable to care for Daniela before it will be her turn to enter the care home. My parents explained this to me and said how since I have the ability to work from home with my job, I can start taking over certain days with Daniela's care to get back into the hang of it and be ready in case I need to become her full-time caregiver. I explained that I would not work from home, because it makes less money and I want to focus on advancing my career. I also wanted free time for my own hobbies and outside social life. My parents called me selfish and said that I need to realize caring for Daniela will not leave enough time for those other things. I told my parents I would not be caring for Daniela. I've spent my entire childhood taking care of her and I'm done. Now other family members and some acquaintances are telling me what a horrible person I am because I am prioritizing career advancements and hobbies over my own sister. Some are calling my ableist because Daniela's disability isn't fair to her or my parents, and I am essentially saying disabled people shouldn't be accommodated by refusing to help care for Daniela. I believe that disabled people all deserve to have their needs met. At the same time, I'm not obligated to keep putting my life on hold for Daniela and my parents. I know on the outside it sounds horrible to prioritize my career and hobbies over my disabled sister, but I won't return to revolving my life around caring for Daniela because it's never going to stop if I do. Am I the idiot? Oh, for God's sake. You're ableist because your parents are trying to force you to care for your disabled sister and you don't want to? They parentified you and stole your childhood and now they want to steal the rest of your life. They should have planned for this eventuality and made arrangements for her. She is not your responsibility. Tell our other family members and acquaintances you already put in your time taking care of her and now it's their turn. Not the idiot. Not the idiot. I have a disabled son, 4, and a daughter, almost 2. It's specifically one of my life goals that she is not going to be expected to be her brother's carer or miss out on things in her life for this. I do hope she will be happy making decisions for him if needed when we are both gone, but we plan for independent supported living for him. You have a right to your own life and plans and I applaud you for standing up for yourself. They should not have forced caring on you. That's appalling. Their failure to plan is not your problem. But I do hope that you don't stop seeing your sister, it's not her fault. Not the idiot. When your parents found out that your sister would need someone caring for her all the time, they should have started making arrangements for the day that they were no longer physically able to care for her that didn't include you or your brother. Your sister is their child and that make her their responsibility, not yours. You gave up your childhood so they could party. No way in hell should you give up your career and life. I would say give her 1 or 2 days a month that you spend together. I have a neighbor who gets mad when I park on the street even though it's public street parking and literally anyone can park there. She's called the cops on me before, for parking an abandoned vehicle and they showed up and said I wasn't doing anything illegal. It's public street parking and my car's registered and legal, and they confirmed with me that I drive it daily to work. She told the cops to ask me to park in my garage and they asked me and I said I was using the garage as a woodworking shop, and it wouldn't fit. So she started leaving notes on my car. I know it's her because I have a dash cam that films motion even when the car's parked. I think she's been trying to hide who's leaving the notes cause she does it at like 2 a.m. in a hat and COVID mask, but it's pretty obvious on the dash cam still. She put a letter there and I just didn't open it and drove around with it on there till it got crumpled and faded. She did it again and I left it on there till it rained and became mushy paper. I think she was getting the point I wasn't gonna read it. One of my other neighbors said I had a note on my car and I said, yeah, I know. Just leave it there. The crazy lady down the street keeps doing it and I think she's getting the point I haven't moved the first few. She asked what it said and I said I didn't know. She said it was kinda crap of me to not even read it. I was like, it's kinda crap. She called the cops on me. That crap is dangerous, knowing how the cops are, which my neighbor didn't seem to get. She seemed to not think cops are dangerous? I don't know. Anyway, am I the idiot for just leaving my neighbor's petty notes there till they disintegrate? Not the idiot, but I would keep the letters in case the harassment escalates. They're evidence. While she's only called the cops so far, you have no idea whether she's making threats inside the letters. Open any letters with gloves. Keep them in a sealed plastic bag after reading. Forewarned is forearmed. Better you know what's going on and retain the receipts. Not the idiot. But I think I would actually collect those letters, get those records of her putting them on the shield and telling her to stop, or I would call a police on her for harassment. I wouldn't just ignore it, because who knows what she is going to do next time. Maybe she would scratch your car or do some other damage to your property. But hey, I think you definitely not the idiot for just ignoring those altogether. Not the idiot. This gave me flashbacks from my college days. I lived in a house in an area with a ton of college kids. A group of retirees who called themselves the Civilian Parking Patrol, or some similar nonsense, used to leave tickets on cars they thought were parked poorly. Not completely parallel to the curb, ticket. Parked on the wrong side of the street, ticket. They somehow only ever ended up on college student cars, and not because we were the only crappy parkers. I, 33, have a daughter, 12, with cancer, specifically osteosarcoma. She got diagnosed with osteosarcoma about 3 months ago. The tumor was on her hip and she was able to get limb salvage surgery 2 weeks ago. Well, about a few days before her surgery, we found out that 3 girls she considered friends, obviously not anymore, were making fun of my daughter. They said she was being dramatic, and that chemotherapy probably doesn't make you that sick, and they were making fun of her being bald. Of course that hurt my daughter because before this she considered them to be friends. I talked to the girl's parents and they ended up all writing apology letters. I was talking to one of my daughter's doctors about that whole situation. She said how the girls are uneducated about cancer and that maybe if my daughter and I are comfortable with it they can come and see the oncology part of the hospital just to learn a bit more about cancer. Well, I talked it over with my daughter and she was okay with it. So I tried talking to the girl's parents. None of them were willing to let their daughter go, saying it would be traumatizing. I brought up kids who go through cancer all the time. If anything, it's traumatizing for my daughter and any other kid who has to deal with having cancer. They called me an idiot for trying to make their daughters more sorry and said they already wrote the letter, so that should be enough. First, I am so sorry your family is going through this. Cancer is a hell of a disease. I hope your daughter heals well from it and live a long, happy life. Not the idiot. I don't blame the kids for being uninformed and a little cruel. Kids often lack empathy. But their parents are idiot. It is their job to ensure that their kids grow into responsible adults. Their kids are sheltered from reality, and they are given a nice free reality check. What a wasted opportunity. You are not the idiot, but of course those parents called you an idiot. Their daughters didn't just become mean and ignorant for no reason. If it were me, I would have made my daughter volunteer in the kids' cancer wing because she obviously needs help developing empathy, but really nothing you can do if their parents say no. You're a real warrior for your daughter, may she have your strength and resolve. Not the idiot for this lovely suggestion. What a great way to teach those girls a lesson in compassion and empathy. They were likely jealous of the extra attention your daughter was getting, normal for a kid, but misplaced. This could show them that the attention comes at a very high cost. It would be a good life lesson. However, you suggested it to the parents and they declined. Not much you can do after that except support your daughter. I wish her well on her recovery.